So more evidence is starting to come out that Mueller and his team were deceptive in a lot of the things they talked about in their report, and this was used in an attempt to intentionally damage Donald Trump. Now, if you want to know my feelings on Mueller and why I think that he was partisan and this was all just him acting on behalf of the deep state and the establishment Democrats to go after Trump, you can check out my live stream from yesterday, which is linked on my site, that talks specifically about the first hour, what I think about Mueller and why I think he was biased and partisan. But in the past week, we've learned two different cases about the Mueller report acting deceptively and leaving certain things out of context to paint a picture to make Trump and people connected to him look bad and look like they were up to some nefarious things. The first was the case of Trump's former lawyer, John Dowd. What this case was, it was real simple. Dowd was contacting Cohen's lawyer. Cohen was Trump's former lawyer as well, and they were going to be co-defendants. And so he did what any lawyer would do and contacted Cohen's lawyers and said, hey, kind of what can we discuss, what's going to be brought against us. He specifically made the comment that he didn't want anything confidential or illegal to be given to him. But that was edited out without any indication that it was edited out. That section about he just wanted things that were on the up and up and nothing illegal. And it was designed to make it seem like, see, Dowd, Trump's attorney, was trying to get inside information that was illegal. But he was particularly saying, no, I just want the normal everyday stuff that a normal lawyer would ask for. So for some reason that was edited out. Now this story is even worse. And what it is there was a Russian that had contacts with the Trump campaign called Konstantin Kliminik. And it said in the report, it was made it to seem like this was this very nefarious Russian, one of the Russians that Trump had connection to and Trump's team had connection to, and it proves that there was some shadiness going on. Only problem is, we now know that Mueller knew that this actual Russian was actually a long-time, very respected source for U.S. intelligence apparatus going after Russians. So it's the exact opposite of the picture that was being portrayed by Mueller. So let's read some of this article by John Solomon from The Hill and see what I'm talking about. I'm quoting. In a key finding of the Mueller report, Ukrainian businessman Konstantin Kliminik, who worked for the Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, is tied to Russian intelligence. But hundreds of pages of government documents, which special counsel Robert Mueller possessed since 2018, describe Kliminik as a sensitive intelligence source for the U.S. State Department, who informed on Ukrainian and Russian matters. Why Mueller's team omitted that part of the Kliminik narrative from its report and related court filings is not known, but the revelation comes as the accuracy of Mueller's Russia conclusions face increased scrutiny. The incomplete portrayal of Kliminik is so important to Mueller's overall narrative that it's raised in the opening of his report. The FBI assesses Kliminik, quote, to have ties to Russian intelligence, Mueller's team wrote on page 6, putting a sinister light on every contact Kliminik had with Manafort, the former Trump campaign chairman. What it doesn't state is that Kliminik was a sensitive intelligence source for state going back to at least 2013, while he was still working for Manafort, according to the FBI and State Department memos. So in other words, Kliminik's actually someone who is in the Ukraine, but he's working on behalf of the U.S. State Department to inform on Russian people, Russian oligarchs, and things like that to the U.S. State Department, helping our intelligence agencies out. This is the case with many of the Russians that are interacted with by the Trump campaign. We're told this half story. They're shady, they're Russians. They must be shady. But the part they don't tell you is over and over again, we see that these Russians either had connections to U.S. intelligence as well, or they had connections to the Hillary team. People like Deripaska, who had connections to Manafort. But we know that they had connections to Hillary's campaign manager, Tony Podesta, as well. John Podesta. So we're always told this half-truth, and it kind of just shows kind of like this bigotry and this xenophobia that's being put forth by the intel agencies and the establishment Democratic Party. All you have to do is say, that person's Russian, they must be bad. And that's absurd. So here we see that someone was actually basically a spy on the dole for the U.S. State Department against Russian interests. And the whole article, it's worth reading, which I'll link, which talks just about how source after source says this was a very respected spy. He was given special treatment by the U.S. State Department because they thought that his information was so vital. Yet all of that, despite Mueller knowing that, him and his team in the report don't include any of that. Because they don't want any exculpatory evidence to make it look like, maybe Trump didn't act so bad. Now, that's just two incidents, the Dowd story and now this. Both where they're doing their best to selectively leave out exculpatory evidence that shows that the allegation isn't as bad as it seemed. It doesn't make Trump look so bad to say, and basically people connected to him were also connected to people that were spying against the Russian government on behalf of the U.S. State Department. Nope, none of that matters. All that matters is the guy's nationality. He's Ukrainian, he's Russian, he must be bad. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a section here lower, just to get an idea of just how shady this is. Remember, we're talking about how the Mueller report, on page 6 of his report, talks about some of the initial things that led to scrutiny. And this is how the FBI acted as well. They said, well, and you hear people, the Democrats and people that don't like Trump say this all the time, well, there were just so much smoke because there were so much connections of Russians. But that's true of all of our politicians, not just Russians, but Chinese, Israel, French, German, all of these countries. We have all sorts of shady connections from our politicians. They're always dealing with people in foreign entities, foreign oligarchs, former people from different states, things like that. It's just this one time we're using it to say, oh, but it was shady this time. We know, for example, that Hillary's team had connections to some of the exact shady Russians. Remember, let's take Veselnitskaya, the lawyer in the Trump Tower meeting, who met with the firm Hillary was paying, Glenn Simpson, the leader of it from Fusion GPS, the day before and the day after the Trump Tower meeting. So they're meeting with the exact same Russians. Deripaska, another oligarch, they're meeting with the Hillary's team. So it's just ridiculous. They just want to say, they had connections to Russians, therefore Trump must be shady. But this is clearly just a wind shot, and it's selective in their application. More evidence that Mueller's editing or being deceptive by keeping out evidence that makes it appear as if Trump didn't do things as bad as he wants. He couldn't find proof that Trump committed a crime. So they just have to smear him as much as possible. That's what the report was about. So the whole article is worth reading. I want to get to the bottom, though, because this is a part that I think is very important. The emails raise further doubts about the Mueller report's portrayal of Kliminik as a Russian agent. They show Kliminik was allowed to visit the United States twice in 2016. The emails also show how misleading by omission the Mueller report's public portrayal of Kliminik turns out to be. For instance, the report makes a big deal out of Kliminik's meeting with Manafort in August 2016 at the Trump Tower in New York. By that time, Manafort had served as Trump campaign chairman for several months, but was about to resign because of a growing controversy about millions of dollars Manafort accepted as a foreign lobbyist for Yakunov's, that was the pro-Russian Ukrainian president. Specifically, the Mueller report flagged Kliminik's delivery of a peace plan to the Trump campaign for settling the 2-year-old Crimea conflict between Russia and Ukraine. This is a quote. Kliminik requested the meeting to deliver in person a peace plan for Ukraine that Manafort acknowledged in the Special Counsel's office. Special Counsel's office was a backdoor way for Russia to control part of eastern Ukraine, said the Mueller report. Sounds really shady, right? Here's Manafort, Trump's campaign manager, even though he's on his way out the door, he's meeting with this Ukrainian who's trying to have peace in Crimea between Ukraine and Russia. Looks really shady because it says this would allow Russia to maintain some control. Man, this guy must be really shady. I mean, if he's talking to someone, Russia's our enemy, and if he's talking to people, a prospective politician about this plan to give Russia control, that looks really bad, right? Yeah, I guess anyone who he talked to should be under investigation. Let's continue. But state emails showed Kliminik first delivered a version of his peace plan in May of 2016 to the Obama administration during a visit to Washington. Kasanoff, his former handler at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, had been promoted to a top policy position at state, and the two met for dinner on May 5, 2016. The day after the dinner, Kliminik sent an email to Kasanoff's official state email address recounting the peace plan they had discussed the night before. Russia wanted a quick settlement to get Ukraine out of the way and get rid of sanctions to move economic stuff they are interested in, Kliminik wrote to Kasanoff. The email offered 8 bullet points for the peace plan, starting with a ceasefire, law creating economic recovery zones, and a presidential decree on amnesty for anyone involved in the conflict on both sides. Kliminik provided a valuable piece of intelligence, stating that the old Yakunovich party was dead, the party of regions can't be reincarnated. Kasanoff replied the next day, although he was skeptical of some of the intelligence on Russian intention, it was very important for us to know. He thanked Kliminik for the detailed plan and added, I passed the info to my bosses who were chewing it over. Kasanoff told the FBI that he believed he sent Kliminik's peace plan to 2 senior state officials, including Victoria Nuland, President Obama's Assistant Secretary of State of European and Eurasian Affairs. So when this person who delivered the peace plan to Trump, it was considered, oh, there's Trump and his team dealing with nefarious Russians that want peace, that want to give Russia part of this control. But when this same guy a couple months earlier gave the exact same plan to the Obama State Department, that wasn't considered disingenuous or dangerous or criminal at all. There wasn't no one batted an eye about it. So why would Mueller leave that part out? He just spins it as, oh, someone from Trump's team met with this Russia. Yeah, this guy that was going around talking to Obama and anyone he could, just trying to have peace between the Ukraine and Russia. But they leave out all of that part. This shows what I've been saying all along, and I really recommend, if you have the time, even though I'm long-winded, to check out my live stream from yesterday, where I talked specifically about how there's just more and more evidence coming out that Mueller was a partisan. Things like intentionally destroying the iPhones of Strzok and Page so that Horowitz, the inspector general, couldn't see what was going on there. Things like purposely staffing his team with former Clinton attorneys that worked for the Clinton Foundation. Staffing it with his second-in-command being Weissman, who attended Hillary's victory celebration that ended up being a lost celebration the night of the election. Things like charging people like Paul Manafort for the exact same crime that people connected to Hillary, such as the Podesta group, committed, lobbying for these pro-Russian Ukrainian interests. Manafort gets charged, sent to solitary confinement. Podesta group gets to retroactively file paperwork. Mueller's a scumbag. That's why he's not going to testify in public, because he knows he'd be asked difficult questions, which I go into in my live stream yesterday. This is more evidence. They're deceptively putting this evidence to you. Why would they leave this stuff out? It's supposed to be just the facts, right? But instead it seems like Mueller, over and over we're finding out, had selective edits and left out omissions to always make Trump and the people connected to him look worse. If it's just about finding the facts and the truth, then give people the facts and the truth. Why pretend that Kliminik, someone who is basically a spy for the U.S. State Department, was some nefarious pro-Putin ally that Trump people were talking to, when in reality the truth is 180 degrees from that? It just goes to show, how do we know we can trust anything about obstruction or anything else in this report? Mueller is an intel agency person. Comey wanted him to do this investigation. That's what Comey admitted to. He wanted Mueller to be the special counsel because just like what Comey's wish was this was all about getting Trump by any means necessary the entire time. And so now let's see what other false edits. And people say, well, it's just a little bit, doesn't matter. You could bet if Trump has a quote and leaves something out that's exculpatory about someone, if he has a tweet but he leaves a part of it out, that's the bigger picture. Oh, the media goes nuts. The Democrats go nuts. And that's just stupid tweets. This was supposed to be the definitive record. Mueller was supposed to be beyond reproach. He's nonpartisan. He'll just tell the facts. Yet now, over and over, we're seeing it only went one way. By the way, and as I've been saying, the biggest thing is the number one thing Mueller was supposed to be investigating was supposedly Russia's interference to get us at each other's throat in this country and what all they did. Yet he doesn't have word one about the biggest piece of Russian interference, the claims that they made to Christopher Steele for the dossier, which led to over a 2-year investigation that we're still talking about the allegations of today. He couldn't be bothered to look into that, which clearly has interfered with our political system more than anything else the Russians are accused of doing. No, but he found time to indict some Russian Facebook trolls, didn't he? So we see the deceptive edits. We know what Mueller's about, and you look for more of this stuff to come in the future. How do we know what we can trust? We don't have access to the background. We're trying to take Mueller's word for this. And it's like I said yesterday again in my live stream. I'm sorry, I'm not taking intel agencies' word on things anymore. I'm not saying I think they're always lying, but when they make grandiose claims, I want to see proof, because they've lied so many times. WMDs in Iraq, chemical warfare in Syria, the need to go in and take out basically every leader ever, people like in Libya with Gaddafi. Over and over they lied to us. Sorry, let's see proof before I take their word for things anymore. So, yeah, really bad. I think this is a big story that's going to pick up legs, and we're going to see more selective edits and lies by omission that are contained in the Mueller report. So, hey, if you like my video, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Recommend me to some friends. Feel free to comment and give me any suggestions on how to improve my channel, or if you'd like to participate in any way. I'll be putting some more videos out this week. Probably doing a live stream of my friend Drone Tech Politics channel at 7 p.m. tomorrow, so you should check that out. So, thanks a lot, and have a good one.